Advent 14. She wrapped him in swaddling clothes. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. That's in Isaiah 9:6. And she wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger. Luke 2:7. That's what Mary did for newborn Jesus. She wrapped him up and put him into a bed in an animal's feed box. Many artists have painted the scene. Others have carved Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus out of wood and stone. But what about the swaddling clothes? Sometimes Jesus is shown wearing no clothes at all. Sometimes he is covered with a cloth, blanket, or wears something that looks like a nightgown. The Japanese artists showed him wearing Japanese clothes. African, Russian, Italian, Indian, and South America artists showed Jesus wearing American, Russian, Italian, Indian, or South American clothes. Only sometimes does the artist carve or paint Jesus wearing his swaddling clothes.
If you've ever seen an Egyptian mummy, you have a good idea what swaddling clothes look like. Long strips of cloth, which could be as long as a room, were wrapped around and around the baby. Often the baby's arms were pinned to its side and its legs were straight together. Sometimes the bands wound around its chin and forehead so that all you could see was a pair of eyes. In biblical times, the newborn baby was washed, cleaned and rubbed with salt, or washed in salt water before it was wrapped up. People thought that the salt helped harden the baby's skin and make it strong.
Swaddling clothes, or swaddling bands, were also called clouts in the Middle Ages. Their names all come from the word for bandage. Wrapping and binding and bandaging babies has been a tremendous popular method of infant care for thousands of years. It was a custom in many different countries long before Christ was born. Swaddling was not a sign of poverty, it was a sign that their parents loved the baby and knew how to take care of it. The Old Testament prophet Ezekiel described an unloved and neglected baby as one who had nobody to wash or salt it or wrap it up in swaddling clothes.
Today, there are still places where parents wrap up their babies in cradles, baskets, fours or slings. Even in modernised countries, a doctor might suggest soothing a fussy baby by swaddling it in a blanket. Every parent who holds a crying baby close or offers to tuck a worried child into bed quietens the child in a swaddling way. There are lots of reasons people thought it was a good idea to tightly swaddle their infants with long strips of cloth. Many thought it might make the baby strong and help to straighten its legs and body. Other opinions where the swaddling kept babies from hurting themselves, kept them warm or made them easy to carry. Everywhere, parents swaddled their babies because they loved them and wanted to protect them.
Swaddling is a lovely act. It always means to tie up, control, hold down, restrict and restrain. And you can imagine, God was swaddled. Today's reading tells us that the Son of God is the greatest of the great. He's a prince in charge of all the governments. He is mighty, wonderful and everlasting. This very God became very man, a baby who wrapped in swaddling clothes in his human birth. Jesus put aside his power and his glory and became swaddled. Humble and human and restricted. The Wonderful One lived the life of a commoner. The Supreme Counselor was silent before his accusers. The mighty God did not call an army of angels to save him from the cross. The everlasting Father was an obedient Son. The Prince of Peace was wounded for our sins. All this Jesus did for us and our salvation. King of kings, Lord of lords, swaddled baby.